Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. I have a very special guest with me today, Miss Lauren Rountree. She is the owner, founder of Cronulla Bootcamp. You would have, if you do live in Cronulla, you've likely seen that car, like I have for many years, and just yeah, one of those things that you just there's the um, bootcamp truck, as I call it. So, Loz, I like the listeners to get to know who's coming on, so they get a deeper sense of connection to who you are, and how your background influences your viewpoints on what we're going to talk about today. So, can you share an overview of what has shaped you as a woman and led you to personal training, breathwork, and nutrition?
Thank you so much for having me on. And yes, the bootcamp truck, I did say to them to make sure to get that logo as big as they could up the side of that car, and they really, really did. Um, so thank you so much
Tick.
for having me. Yeah, tick, they did the right job. Um, I think that some of the biggest things that have shaped me definitely have been I had a chronic anxiety disorder from a very young age. I would probably say that I was born with it. I
Mm.
started having what I can now look back on and identify as panic attacks from about the age of 5. And so we used to call it at that time, we used to say that I would hyperventilate. And I would be hyperventilating and finding it really hard to catch my breath and to breathe. And so my
Mm.
mum used to have to do things like give me a brown paper bag to breathe into and things like that. And then I can identify my first full blown panic attack where it wasn't just about that breathlessness and being out of breath. Probably at around the age of 9, where I got all of the other things happening with it, like that doom feeling and the
Mm.
flutters in the stomach and all of that stuff happening. And I think that why that has shaped me and my trajectory in life so much is because it really set me on a path even from a very young age, even from teenage years. Like I was really lucky. My mum is a clairvoyant psychic medium, and so even back then, before it was mainstream, my mum had me doing guided meditations when I was a teenager to try and help with the
Mm.
anxiety. And I started to recognize that obviously exercise was a really big component that helped with the
Mm.
anxiety. Plus, I was just a really active, energetic person and kid anyway. But I think that it was that really had me focus my whole life on what I could do to regulate my nervous system, what I could do to try and help myself to feel better and to manage this condition that could be quite debilitating on a daily basis. And I think that's why everything has all come together for me. So it's not just
Mm.
the exercise, it's the nutrition, it's the foods that you eat and how they impact you. It's your mental health, it's how you look after that. And so I think that it was that and dealing with something so chronic that can really affect your daily experience as a
Mm.
human that has made me my whole life go on this just journey of trying to discover how we can help ourselves to feel better and to be healthier in our own bodies.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting growing up with a psychic parent, isn't it?
It is and it isn't. So
Mm.
it is as in I'm so grateful because it's meant that spirituality for me has always just been really matter of fact. It's not something that I've
Mm.
stumbled across as an adult and then it becomes this like really wow, new shiny thing that you want to just throw yourself into 100%. Like I joke and I say my spiritual guru used to yell at me to make sure that my homework was getting done. So
Mm.
it was interesting, but it also was just it was normal for me. It was normal for
Mm.
myself and my sister. We'd be cooking dinner, and Mum would say, "Oh, Nan's here," and Nan died 10 years ago, or however long ago.
Mm.
So it was interesting and cool, and I can appreciate it now how different that upbringing was. But it was also, I think the coolest thing was how just it made spirituality just very matter of fact, just like anything else was in life, which has shaped me massively as well.
Do you think a lot of the anxiety you were feeling was that psychic input coming through, and your, I guess, your rational mind at the time of that development, because it wouldn't have developed properly then,
I don't
creates
know.
that mix wire? effect?
I think it certainly could. I really do. I'm certainly not psychic like my mum is, though. Like, I say mum was born Mariah Carey, as in, some people are just born with that voice and it's just a natural talent. And then the rest of us might be able to hold a tune and we can take singing lessons. But I'm certainly not like mum is quite incredible, and she hasn't worked on that. She's been like that since she was a kid. So I certainly have elements of that. I do. And it could be that. I actually don't know what triggered that. I definitely am what you would call ADHD if you're the type of person who wants to put labels on things. I don't like to identify with anything. But my mum said that she was really surprised that when she had me that I wasn't born with a drum kit, because even when I was in her stomach, I was just so active. And I'm still like that. I'm 42 in a month's time, and I say that I'm like a kelpie. That if everyone was gonna look at themselves like a breed of dog, I have so much energy. So it could be that as well. You can even go down the path of, is it generational trauma that came through it, and that's what I was still carrying. I don't have an answer for it. It could be a mixture of all of those things, but I certainly think being intuitive makes you pick up on things, and if you don't know how to filter that right, then certainly it can impact that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the native tribes had schizophrenic members in the tribe, and the shamans actually revered them as, up the top near the leaders because they had access to different realms. But,
Yeah,
oh, I'd love to go into the psychic stuff, but we'll have to do that next time.
we can
So,
go
so
to
you're a
whatever you
person.
like.
You're a personal trainer.
I've been a personal trainer for 20 years this year. Yeah,
20 years. Well done.
thank you.
I remember when I started as a PT, it seemed to be primarily bodybuilding, and then it went straight into CrossFit
Yeah,
when that became a thing. So one extreme to the other in terms of sort of functional movements.
yeah.
What kind of trends have you noticed in the PT industry, and how trainers are essentially being trained within the last 10, 15 years?
It's just so totally different now, isn't it? Like, it's changed so much. I think one of the biggest trends that I have seen change is the the trend of fitness. 20 years ago, it wasn't really a thing to be a personal trainer. It wasn't a super popular job, which obviously it is now. And as you said, it was very bodybuilding. So the coolest thing was to be at Fitness First every evening after work. And most people were either in the weights room, like the guys were in the weights room and they were lifting weights, as you said, you know, very bodybuilding mindset. And the girls were doing a lot more cardio. We were either in the weights room doing that kind of stuff as well and mixing it with cardio. It certainly wasn't the group fitness industry that it is now. So over the years, there's been so many trends that have come and gone. As you said, CrossFit, and then you see your F45s, and I think the biggest trend that I am noticing is how trendy fitness is, which is fantastic. But it's also seeing things come and go really quickly, and that's speeding up probably with society as well.
Yeah, and also I've noticed that the fitness industry is very, or maybe just not it's not the industry itself, but the PTs and the way they train. That either they have like their own little niche, be it weight loss, strength, rehab. Um, I remember since The Biggest Loser came out on TV, a lot of trainers adopted that slash until they're half dead mentality and get the
Yep.
weight off. And
And all of it's
yeah,
the only
that
way that you're meant to train. So every
100%.
every
Yeah.
single person is saying that this is the only thing you're meant to do, and I've always really disliked the fear marketing side of it. If you're doing sit-ups, here's why you could be ruining your abs and why you should never do that exercise, and here's why Pilates is the only thing you should be doing, and why everything else ruined my body. And I don't love the fear marketing around it, because people do really respond to that. And I think there's a place for nearly all of it, and just if you're moving, that's fantastic. But I would like to see a bit more honesty in the fitness industry. in that respect, like in that whole, nothing else is good for you other than what I'm
Yeah.
selling or how I'm training people. And I don't think that's helpful. I think it's creating a barrier to people being the fittest and strongest that they can be, just because we're so bombarded with everything else is wrong except for what I'm doing.
I remember, yeah, PT, when I just started to manage PTs, I remember there was a good PT. This is more kind of based out east.
Yeah,
And I know you know exactly what I mean by that.
yeah,
It was you're either a good personal trainer who didn't know how to sell,
yeah,
or you were an average, being generous, average PT, but really knew how to sell.
yeah,
And they could just do the marketing thing. But I remember also going to many lectures. There was this one lecturer in particular who, there was this guy talking about some ab routine, but you could see he had diastasis recti,
yeah,
straight up. Then he took his shirt off. He had striations all over his lower back. Turned out he's had 2 back surgeries and completely inverted breathing pattern. And he's teaching a whole bunch of PTs how to train the core when his core didn't even work. So that's probably one of the traps that I remember seeing, the people preaching this is the only way. Well, they know a lot about that way, but they don't know how to integrate any of it into everyday things like carrying your washing or
yeah.
picking up a child or even going to the gym. Really.
Yeah, and along the lines of what you were just saying with like good PTs and average PTs, I think, in any industry there's that. Whether it's working with the
Oh, of
body and
course,
physios
100%.
and
Yeah.
stuff, like in any industry there's that. But we now have, which we didn't have when I started out. I mean, I had a MySpace account, I think, but social media really,
MySpace.
I know, I
Oh,
know, where you got to
yeah.
pick a song and everything. You had your theme
Yeah.
song, it was very dramatic. And now social media is such a huge marketing platform, which is great because it puts it into our own hands, but it also opens the door for these like influencers who look fantastic. They have this incredible body and they're willing to post 1,000 photos of themselves a day in bikinis and things like that. And people look at that and think that, well, obviously I'm going to take advice from that person. Now, I do think it is important that you're someone who is fit and works out and does all of those things, but that doesn't always translate to someone who understands, like to be able to actually look at someone, how they're moving, how you're going to get them moving in a correct way. Like the body is it, it's such an interesting thing to work with because every single one of us is so different. You get 20 people to do a squat, they're all going to look different. They're all going to feel it in different areas and things like that. It's actually it's not as simple as what people would think it is to be able to pick these little micro movements and be able to see that in people. So I think there's been a very big influx of that, of people who look fantastic, they enjoy working out themselves, and so they think I may as well become a personal trainer. And it's really, I mean, I think that you're almost 80% psychologist, and and being able to get, the best out of people when they're uncomfortable and when they don't want to do it, and be able to motivate people, but also really to be able to get people to move in a way that is going to make them get fitter and stronger but also not hurt themselves. So there's so much that comes into that. But yeah, I see that as well. There's the marketing side of it, there's the people who are going to be good at the marketing side, and that's different to the job.
100%. And about the psychology thing, it's not only about moving your body, but being happy doing it as well, and getting out of bed and wanting to do it, having that desire. And I say to any client or patient that works with me, you have to want it more than I want it for you.
Yeah,
And I always tell students when I teach for the Czech Institute, when I'm talking to students, I said it's amazing what people will say between sets, especially when they're up 80-90% threshold.
yeah,
The stuff that comes out is like that's their diagnosis. That's essentially why they're coming. And
yeah.
I'll never say it on a fill out form.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's incredible as well. I feel like you really do get to see, like when you're pushing people physically and when people are tired and they may not want to do it. And I think you really get to see the true person come out, don't you? Like you,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
like how, and that filters through with everything. It's how you behave in an uncomfortable situation or the days you don't feel like it. Because it doesn't matter how much you love it, how fit you are, you could have been doing it every day for decades. None of us feel like it every single day, and how people cope with that is very interesting.
Very. That's a podcast in itself.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've also studied breathwork. What was your drive going into that?
So, as I said earlier, like the anxiety disorder my whole life has been something that I've always tried to like. I don't think I ever thought I was going to be completely cured of it. I now say that I am, and I don't use that word lightly. And I've started to use that word only recently because I did my first breathwork session at the start of 2020. I was so lucky to get it in just before we went into our first lockdown. And yeah, like total blessing. And it was a Wim Hof breathing breathwork session. So it was that big, intense type of breath work. And I did it with about 30 other people in the room. And all of us sat up. And like, I honestly feel like I've never felt that calm or still in my own body before in my whole life. Like it felt foreign to me how still I was, like the amount of peace that was actually in my nervous system. And I looked around the room and we all shared our experience, and every single one of us, like some people were crying, and I was like, whoa, what? That's, I didn't have that at all. I had a really physical experience. Some people saw things, the range of experiences was so huge, but that feeling that all of us had, it didn't matter what the experience was, we were all just totally changed by it in every kind of different way, but all of us just felt like we'd been smashed over the head with 20 years of meditation, which was beautiful. And the guy who I did it with, Johannes, who I ended up learning from and doing my accreditation through. So he sent us through some recordings. I started doing them every single day. Like anything else, I was like, this has made a difference. I'm going to see if this is something that's going to be ongoing or cumulative. And started doing those every day. And then I downloaded the Wim Hof app and I started doing that. So for about the first 6 months, I would say pretty much every single day I was doing that type of breath work. And that was so 5.5 years ago. I have not had anything that even resembles a panic attack in that time. I don't, and COVID was by far. I know that we all experienced it in different ways. COVID was by far for me one of the most stressful situations in my life for a couple of years. And even in the most stressful times in my life, where obviously you feel stressed and all of those normal things, I still didn't even come close to feeling like I was about to have a panic attack or that anxiety feeling that, I am suffering with anxiety kind of thing. And I feel like it's completely reset my nervous system, just totally done like a full system reset. And that is for me, so that's like well over 30 years of struggling with something and being very good. Like I was a grade A student at, I would have a couple of years of not even touching caffeine to see if that would help me. Exercising every day, eating all the right food, strict vegan, like you name it, I did it. And so it's not like I hadn't really given everything a good nudge. Like supplements, I went on low dose antidepressants when I was in my late teens, early 20s, which are meant to help with anxiety as well. Just nothing did it. And having such a significant change in my life, I just went, I need to be able to bring this to people. Like this is a game changer. I need to help people. There's so many people these days, like even with personal training, I get people to fill out a pre-exercise questionnaire. And the amount of people who say anxiety or depression, like mental health is just, it's out of control. And I just knew, it's my nature to want to help people, to feel good. And so that's why I became a breathwork instructor in 2023.
Nice. Yeah, people don't realize the power of breath, and I mean, there's lots of breath works out there, and I bring it up to patients all the time that you could really benefit from going to a breath work. And at True, of course, we hold several.
Yeah.
So I try to get them to go into it, and the most common reaction I get, well, I've been breathing for 60, 70 years. I know how to breathe.
Yeah.
So do you? Because you've got inverted breathing pattern that's creating acidosis. That's actually creating, you're hyperventilating yourself into an anxiety attack. But you need to alkalize your body. The most alkalizing substance we know of is oxygen. So if you can improve your mechanics to get more oxygen in, you don't need to take, legally I can't really say it, but you don't really need to take all the meds
Yeah.
that you take. You could just breathe properly.
Yeah. Have you ever done that before and after a breathwork session? So you can use like litmus paper, which like shows you how like acidic or alkaline your system is. And so if you do that right before a breathwork session, so that type of Wim Hof breathing, so that real like hyperventilation, that controlled hyperventilation. And if you do it straight before you start the breath work, and it'll show you where you are normally. So it starts off as yellow, goes to nearly black. It's that dark green. And if you do it, so usually most of us will sit somewhere in the middle in that medium type of green. And if you do it straight after a breathwork session, so for anyone listening who doesn't know, you either spit on it or you wee on it. And if you do it straight after a breathwork session, it's like black. It's off the charts alkaline, which like I love that. I'm such a science nerd, so I love being able to see something like you can feel how great it is, but that's something that's very tangible that you can kind of go, wow, that's what I just did in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, which is really cool, being able to flood your system alkaline. It stays like that for probably up to half an hour after. But the breath is, I mean, fair enough, you've been breathing your whole life. Imagine if you've been doing it wrong. That's a lot of like, it's something you do all day, every
breaths.
day. That's a lot of, if you're doing it in a dysfunctional way, that's a lot of dysfunction that's happening, 24/7. So yeah, that's fine to say you've been doing it all the time, but what if you've been doing it wrong?
Yeah, the most common thing I would see with that clinically would be, obviously when you breathe in, you create excitement into the system. If you have an inverted breathing pattern, the accessory respiratory muscles, the levator scap, the scalenes, etc., all the muscles that elevate the rib cage, they become hypertonic, so they can develop not only trigger points and maybe even develop headaches or even dental issues, but also it becomes hypersensitive. But then when I tell patients that you breathe on average 29,600 times a day. For you to reverse that pattern and to take tension out of those hyperexcitable muscles, it needs 3,000 to 5,000 repetitions to create a motor engram that's sustainable enough to do it subconsciously.
Yeah.
So the bad news is it can take 3,000 to 5,000 reps. The good news is that we do, let's say, 30,000 breaths a day. If you're conscious with it, you could be sorted by dinner time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they have to be able to take the time. Well, I don't say take the time. They have to take the priority to say, okay, I'm going to reset my entire system just doing this.
And it really does. It really does reset your entire system. So obviously, I'm very fortunate. The type of breathwork training I did covers all types of breathwork. So it's not just that kind of Wim Hof style, which is probably personally my favorite, just because I think it ticks so many boxes for so many things. So I mean, physically it does so many things for your immune system, alkalizes your whole system, and blocks your pain receptors. So people dealing with chronic pain find that goes away, reduces inflammation in your body. But then you've got this whole other, not just mental, but spiritual side of it as well, which is, I'm sure we'll dive into, which is really, really cool. So I love it because it ticks all of those boxes. But there's so many different types of breath work that we can do, even when you're driving in the car. And you can just pay attention to doing little breath holds to, help your carbon dioxide tolerance to build up, or just, there's these little times throughout the day. And I think driving the car is a really good one because you're kind of, locked in, zoned out. Hopefully not too zoned out. I shouldn't say that, but you've got, I think it's a good time to say, okay, I'm in the car. Can I slow my breathing down? Can I become conscious of my breath and just becoming conscious of it is such a huge step, because most people either shallow breathe so much,
Mm.
which is telling your system something's wrong. Let's go into fight
Mm-hmm.
or flight. It's anxiety.
Mm.
We're, on guard.
Run from the line. Yep.
Exactly right. There is a lion. Let's run from it.
Mm.
And if you're doing that all day, every day, that's a lot of signaling to your nervous system that something's not okay. And so,
Mm.
just by slowing your breathing down, just by controlling that longer exhale, there's these little things that we can do that are so easy, that are giving you control back over your own nervous system, over your own body, which is like, it's a game changer.
Mm. I've found that people that shallow breathe or they chest breathe, but it's I guess they kind of they come together a lot of the times. They have a lot of tension in what's called the pons cord tract, which is around the just around the pons at the base of the brainstem. And once the fascia and the dura get restricted around that area, they are straight away in reptilian mode, because that's where the reptilian brain sits.
Yeah.
And they're perpetually in that, and they perceive life through the reptile brain, which has 90% fight or flight, instinctive,
Keep us
safety,
alive.
security.
It's just keep us
Yeah,
alive.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
how many clients would you see with dysfunctional breathing patterns before they say day one?
uh, nearly all.
I'd say at least 9.8 out of 10.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
extremely rare these days to see someone who hasn't done any type of training who has a functional
Mm.
breathing pattern. It's I actually don't know the answer to that. I mean, there's so many factors that come into it. Even our jaw shape and things like that, as you
Mm.
said, like that, all of it comes into play.
Mm.
I would say pace of life is one of the biggest things,
Mm.
because I think it is very chicken or the egg. What came first? If we breathe in a certain way, it's going to create anxiety, and then once we've got the
Mm.
anxiety, it's going to throw back into our breathing patterns. And
Mm-hmm.
I say this to people
There's the loop.
in, yeah, it's a loop.
Mm.
And I say this to people in my breathwork sessions. It's people have such a funny relationship with certain words. So when I
Mm-hmm.
say anxiety, obviously I'm someone who's come from having an anxiety disorder. That's really obvious. But I'll say to people, are you stressed? And their shoulders are up around here, and they're doing these tiny little like chest breaths, and they're like, no,
Mm.
I'm not stressed. It's like,
Mm.
okay, are you worried about something continuously?
Mm.
Or are you, sometimes people don't like to say stress, because it's like, oh, well, I didn't just lose my job, or something major didn't
Mm.
just happen to me. But just the pace of life these days, I think for all of us, is stressful.
Mm.
Even if you're doing fun things from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed, if there's no light and shade with your pace, even,
Mm.
scrolling and
Mm-hmm.
information coming at you so quickly,
Mm.
we're just always so heightened. And I think that pace is showing in people's breathing patterns as well. And that's what's creating this, like, where information overload from the second we get up.
Yeah, I mean, I read research where we're exposed to more information in the day to day than people were in their lifetime at the start of the 1900s.
Yeah, that would not
So
surprise me.
we're just inundated, but not only inundated with information, it's the way we're getting it as well. It's all through screens. Now, screens, the pixelation in the screens oscillate around 40 times a second, I think it is. No, it's more than that. Anyway, it oscillates back and forth, which causes our optic nerve to oscillate. The normal optic nerve oscillation is about 40 times a second.
Yeah,
So our optic nerves can't even keep up with what we're inputting.
yeah,
And without going on to a long anatomy connection with that, there is what's called a optical cervical reflex. So if your neck is locked up on one side, there's a good chance it's either coming from your jaw or the same side eye,
right.
and it's all from your phone a
And
lot of the
again,
time.
that's, how often are people on screens? Like, how many hours
Mm.
of your day are you in front of a screen? Obviously, even for work.
Mm.
And that's that constant feedback, even if it's through the
Mm.
eye. All of these little things just add up throughout our day. And I think a cool thing that I'm starting to see is that there's a lot of people who are really becoming conscious of switching off. I think it's something that we're going to see more of, which is going to be a really cool thing. It's going to be a very big shift in society, but I think the more that we're bombarded with this stuff, I think there is, especially for the younger generations, I give them more credit than I think than what they can get. But I think because they've grown up with this stuff, they've got an awareness around it that we weren't brought up with. It was all shiny and new for us. And they know that they need to actively switch off. They're really conscious of, oh, I've got three teenage nephews, and I hear them say things like, "Oh, I just started to notice with Instagram that I was on it too much, so I just don't do that anymore. I don't think it's good for me." And so I think we will start to see a bit more of a conscious, switching off, which is going to be good for us. But again, like even with what you were just saying, I think we are going to discover more and more about how all of this screen time is affecting us in a pretty detrimental way.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to avoid unless you're living bush and off grid. It's hard to avoid the social medias and the technology. But
Yeah,
I say to patients, look, it's a tool. If you're going to build a house, you don't just use a hammer.
yeah,
It's used for a specific reason. So if you're going to use social media, use it to learn something. Use it to make yourself laugh, decompress, but then know when to. I think when your eyes start to tweak and you start to twitch, and
yeah.
there's probably time to just
And just
over
being
there now.
conscious, right? Like just being conscious of how you feel while you're doing something. Like, are you on it and you're seriously just mindlessly doing this? And just having little moments throughout your day where you're consciously checking in and saying to yourself, so what am I really doing here? Like, if it is just vaguing out, do you need a bit of a break? Is there a more productive way that you can do that? And
Also, is it sustainable? What you're
yeah,
doing?
yeah. And is
So,
it making you feel good? Like for me, I mean, I don't feel like I'm interested enough, but also I don't feel like I have to use social media for work. I don't have a personal one really, and I don't feel like I have time to. But if I ever end up like this, like I don't feel good. Like I really notice that. Like it actually, I feel a bit stressed and not happy. Like it makes me feel agitated. So I think if you could just start to be really connected with how things are making you feel and let that be your compass, about if I should
yeah.
be doing more or less of this.
So, Loz, you're a bit of a nerd when it comes to longevity.
I'm a nerd.
Are these rumors correct?
Yeah, I am.
So,
Self-confessed. I
so
love it.
yeah. So when it comes to longevity, there's so much, science says this, science research says that, blah blah blah, for different approaches. But in truth, it can be amazingly simple if people just really, as you're saying, be conscious and pay attention to how they're feeling.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Love longevity. I've always found it really, really interesting. I watched a doco in my teens about centenarians and just these different people from all over the world and what their lifestyle was like. And I don't know, I just find it super interesting. I think it can, as you said, it can be so super simple. I really think it is simple. I think it's the basics. Everyone's looking for like this new shiny supplement. I'm a supplement taker. Like I'm not knocking it. I definitely am. But you don't drink a bottle of wine every night and look for the newest, shiniest supplement, or you don't, eat super processed food all day, every day, and then do a week long fast and then go back to eating the ultra processed food. I think we're in a weird time at the moment where people are going to extremes with stuff. I'm seeing that in the fitness space at the moment. Like everyone's wanting to run an ultra marathon and live on 4 hours of sleep. And again, like that's actually it's not healthy. Like, you don't sacrifice sleep to exercise for 4 hours a day. So I just think I find it really interesting from a psychological perspective how much people want some big wow thing, but no one wants to just accept it's like get 8 hours of sleep every night, drink a heap of water, eat real food. whatever your diet, like there's, if you want to look at the blue zones, it very much looks like predominantly plant-based, whether you eat a small amount of meats or you don't. Predominantly plant-based seems to continuously look like the way to go. So eat heaps of vegetables, eat heaps of just real food. Like it doesn't have to be fancy. Don't worry about whether a pineapple or an apple is better for you. I see so much of that stuff happen with people. I get asked all the time, I heard carrots have more sugar in them than celery does. And it's like if your diet is that perfect that you need to worry about if a carrot or celery is going to be better for you, then you probably don't have any worries in your life. Like that sounds like a pretty perfect diet to me. But the basics is where the magic happens, right? Like move your body every day, do some strength training, do some cardio, stretch. It doesn't have to be fancy. You got to lift something heavy. You've got to be able to, I think, you should be able to go for a jog as well because that's strength training for your heart. And just eat real food. It's that.
Well, that's a nice segue into the next question. So, talking about longevity, there's many factors that will influence that, obviously. So, I'll give you a little list,
Okay.
and we'll discuss each one.
Perfect.
Nutrition.
Yeah.
Go.
So I'm nearly finished my qualifications to be a certified nutritionist, but I mean, this is something that I've been nerding out on for a very long time. As I said, it's looking like with nutrition, if you look at the blue zones, now you've got some blue zones that are totally vegan. So the blue zones, for anyone who doesn't know, so they're the groups on the planet, and they're all over the planet. So we've got, Ikaria in Greece, we've got Sardinia in Italy, they're seriously Okinawa in Japan, all over the planet. We've got these communities of people who live the longest with the least amount of chronic disease and illness. And they have very different diets. So some of them are high carb, low protein, low fat. Some of them are high fat, low carb. Like the makeup of the macros is very different in all of those groups. So that kind of solves the debate for people who focus a lot on macros as well. But all of them eat, very non-processed food. That is something that is definitely a common theme in all of them, except for one. There's Loma Linda in California, which they're a Seventh-day Adventist community, and they actually, so majority of them are vegan. There are some of them who eat, I don't remember if it's meat, but maybe a bit of dairy. But Loma Linda actually have they've got their own everything. They've got their own hospital. They've got their own brand of processed, like fake vegan meats, like sausages and things like that, which is obviously ultra processed. And they eat quite a lot of that. So they're the only ones that have something in the diet that's quite processed. But with all of the other ones, super like basically back to farming, like going into your backyard and getting the fruit and veg straight from the ground. And even with our blue zones, even the ones who do eat any form of meat and dairy, it doesn't take up more than about 5% of their diet. So very low animal, animal protein animal protein intake. And I think that, with scientific studies, I think most of us know these days you can manipulate a study to kind of show anything you want to produce
So many ways.
in so many ways. So that's why, you can Google a study that talks about how garlic is one of the healthiest things for you, and it's going to cure your cancer, and it's going to do all of these things. And then there'll be another study that proves how toxic garlic is and why you should never eat it. And, so I think being quite discerning with believing studies is important. But, there are a lot of scientific studies that back that up. But then I like looking at real world evidence. And to me, when you've got such huge groups of people all over the planet that are showing real world outcomes, and it's by eating real food. Sorry for anyone who wanted something fancier than that, but it really is just getting back to eating real food. The less processed, the less packaged. and the less eating out. When we eat out, I love eating out. I love food. I'm a huge foodie, but you don't have control over what goes in there. So it's usually a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, a lot of oils that aren't great oils for your body either. Um, and so it really is back to basics, back to real food as well for nutrition.
I get asked a question, and it's always, almost always, 5 minutes towards the end of the scheduled session.
Yeah,
And that question is, I think you know what I'm about to say, what should I eat? And I tell people that's to give that question, the merit that it deserves. I need half a day. But in reality, all I'm going to tell you throughout that half a day is it's probably easier for me to tell you what not to eat.
yeah,
Because we have over 1 million animal species that we have available, over 350,000 plant species we have available. If you really want to get into it, read the book, what's it called? Read the book Biochemical Individuality by Roger Williams, who did a research study just showing, everyone has their own individual calcium needs, everyone has their own potassium needs, everyone has their own certain fat requirements, etc. And it can vary 1,000% person to person. So, first of all, pay attention to your body. Eat organic. To me, when I hear real food, I just hear the word organic.
yeah.
We're not designed to break down pesticides, and they are massive, massive hormonal disruptors. I mean, people wear hazmat suits to spray them, but yet they spray crops so insects don't eat them, but then we eat them. Oh no,
And
that's a
think
bit.
about this, but I totally agree. And you sound, people roll your eyes when they hear you talk about that. But exactly what you just said, like people wear hazmat suits to spray that stuff.
Yeah.
Have a look at the warning labels all over that stuff. And if you have a look at something the size of a grain, and that little tiny thing has been completely covered, like the whole surface area is just chemicals to kill things. And then you think that that's not going to be detrimental to your body in some way, shape, or form. To me, that's common. That's where common sense needs to come back to the health space in a big way.
Yeah. But it's funny how you're talking about research articles, because a lot of the research articles that are published today are actually funded by the very chemical companies that spray that shit. But anyway,
Funny
that's
that.
another episode.
Funny
So
that.
we've got another 2 episodes at least in us.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And I tell people that it's probably easier to avoid what are called the four white devils: white table salt, white sugar, pasteurized dairy, and white wheat. They're probably the most poisonous things you can put in your body. If you avoid those, eat organic. That's really as complicated as most people need to get with that.
Yeah, and I
Now,
think one of my biggest things with nutrition as well, like when you said people ask you, what should I eat? Something that I see, people get very emotional about food. Very emotional. People get very emotional about taking accountability for things, which I think is silly, because if you take responsibility for something, then you have control over it, which is amazing. You want to have control. You don't want someone to go, oh, look, you've got this terrible disease, you've got no control over it, like it's going to ruin your life. No one wants to hear that. I mean, what I see with people is that nutrition is super emotional. There's a lot of emotions that can be built up around it, especially for women predominantly. But men obviously as well can fall into that category. But there, you need to be, again, bringing that awareness back. The amount of people who really aren't conscious of or aware of how much crap they're putting into their body on a daily basis. I get people to sometimes, people will tell me that they have this fantastic diet and they don't know why they're 30 kilos overweight, but
everyone's got a fantastic diet.
everyone's
Yeah.
got a fantastic diet. And I'm like, cool, well, let's do a bit of a food diary and we can see what's going on. They usually get to about the afternoon of the second day and don't want to do it anymore, because it's like, oh, okay, then I did have a muffin, and, then I had a milkshake, and then I had, like, the things that, people seem to remember and pay a lot of attention to their main meal.
You're on mute.
I don't know. I didn't even touch anything for that to happen. That was weird. Is that better? You can hear me?
Yeah. All good.
Amazing.
You're talking about main meals.
Yeah, so I think people are they're very conscious of their main meals. Like, I had this for breakfast, this for lunch. But so much can happen outside of that. And just the taking responsibility for what you're putting in your body as well. I think that's a really big one for people.
So do you know who the patients I see with the worst diets, guess who they are?
Patients with the worst diets, are they mums?
Dietitians.
Dietitians. Well, they do say that a lot of the time you go into, like, they even say that about psychologists. A lot of the time people who end up going into psychology are the people who most need it themselves. And that's why you've got an interest in that area, because potentially you've got a problem with it.
I mean, that's another episode.
Yeah.
Right there.
The reason why I said mums is because I know that a lot of my clients who have kids, especially little kids that they're making lunches and making food for, is that so much snacking happens around that, and so many, little packets of chips or things like that go into lunch boxes. It just brings that into the house. Whereas if you don't have the excuse of having those things in the house for your kids, then it's easier to keep them out of the house. And that they also, they were making this for their kid, and so they had a few pieces and they were snacking on that, and that seems to be a common thing that can happen as well.
Yeah. Hydration.
Drink water. You just have to. You just have to. It's that simple. And water, not Coke Zero. Please, not Coke Zero. That stuff is so addictive. I can't believe how many people drink so much of those. I don't know where anyone got it into their heads that just because it doesn't have real sugar in there, it's good for you. But
well, sugar's probably the healthiest thing in Coke.
that's what I say to people. If you get it, just
but then they
have a
swap
Coke.
the Coke for aspartame.
That's it.
Which is 10 times more neurotoxic than sugar
They
is.
subbed it out for a chemical. Just have.
Yeah,
I make jokes to people these days, and I'm like, don't vape, just have a cigarette. Like they took out the
Keep
nicotine.
it real, people.
They took out the nicotine and they've just put a crap load of chemicals in there. Like, I'm not saying either of them are good for you, but since when is the super high chemical option a good option? Look, I think just to touch on nutrition a little bit as well, and it's the same idea with this as well. It is so undervalued what these things do to your mood. So if you look at a little kid and you give them, some bright red fizzy drink, and you watch the emotional roller coaster that happens after that, you're super aware of it with a kid. You're like, don't give him any more sugar. I'm going to have to deal with it later. So that still happens to us as grown-ups. So, but we obviously, hopefully, learn to regulate that a little bit better. But what you're putting in your mouth is affecting your mood throughout the day is so undervalued as well. The sugar highs and crashes, the afternoon, mental slump. And that's the same with being dehydrated. And as soon as you're dehydrated, even mildly dehydrated, you'll get hungry. You won't get thirsty first. So thirst is a pretty slow response for our body. So you find people are overeating just because they need to drink more water. And the brain fog, but what it means for us to be hydrated, even flushing toxins out of our body, for our bodies to be able to function and repair properly, you just need to be hydrated, and not out of a tap. Get a filter for your
Yes.
third podcast. That's the third one.
God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're the fourth one now, but yeah. It's amazing that the fluoride, it's good for my teeth. It's not how that works.
It's not. It's just not. That's why there's so many states in America now where they actually have banned it.
Well, they banned it in Europe.
Yeah.
And
if they banned it, why is it good for you?
Different. Well, anyway, that's
Yeah.
I've mentioned it on the podcast many times, so I don't want to beat that drum to death.
Yeah.
But as human beings, we're designed to drink two things:
Yep.
our mother's breast milk and water.
Yep.
Most of us listening to this podcast probably off their mother's breast milk by now.
Yep.
So we're left with water.
Yes.
We're left with water.
Yep.
And, people say, oh, but if I drink water that I'm going to wee all the time, put a bit of salt in it. Not white salt, put a bit of coloured salt, thicken it up, make it go intracellular.
Yep.
That will detox. The more, if you're weeing a lot, it's going extracellular, so you're actually stripping yourself of minerals.
Yep.
Thicken it up with a pinch of salt in each litre and don't scull it, just swirl it. Swirl and swallow.
I think, is it Barbara O'Neill that talks about how if you've got a plant that's really dry and you empty a whole bucket of water into that soil, a lot of it will just pour straight off the top and just pour straight. You have to go little by little to let that kind of seep in. And I think that's a nice way to put a visual to it, to how we should be just constantly hydrating throughout the day. And as you said, 100%, some Celtic sea salt in there is absolutely fantastic. But the thing that I have noticed with the peeing constantly, I feel like that is something that can happen at first when people really aren't used to drinking a decent amount of water, and then that evens out over a few days. It only takes a few days for that to really start to even itself out. But the thing that I notice with that as well is a lot of people get to, a couple of hours before bed and think, I really haven't drunk enough water today, and then they try and smash a couple of litres. And then they're feeling like they're constantly getting up and going to the toilet all the time because they're trying to do it, as you said, in a really short period of time. So that is something that for anyone listening, you're not going to be peeing all the time. You're not. If that happens the first couple of days, it evens out for sure. But it's just the amount of energy, the amount of energy that it gives you to be properly hydrated is just huge.
Yeah. Also, going back to the brain fog, it's funny you say that, because when you're dehydrated, the dura mater around the brain actually thickens, and it actually creates a mechanical tension and torque, which actually Chinese burns the brain. But when you're hydrated, you get more production of the ventricles producing cerebrospinal fluid, which actually pumps the entire system, which helps detox, amongst myriad of other things.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are 30 billion biochemical reactions in the body every single second, and every single one of them is water dependent.
See, that even just sounds like it's a little bit important. Just a little bit important. And it is all of these things are so, for anyone who that's a really big habit that they have to change, I just think a really important message is that these habits do click in and become easier very quickly. So at first people go, oh, I always forget to drink water. We're just big kids. If you can start to treat yourself like a big kid, like you're being the parent to a kid that is not drinking enough water, find yourself a bottle that you love drinking out of. There's probably going to be a certain bottle or a certain cup that you love drinking out of, and stick it out on the bench every single day. Make life as easy as you can for yourself. If it's sitting there next to the sink in the morning, it might be a reminder for you to have a drink of water. There's ways that you can make this a lot easier for yourself, but at first it might feel like an effort, but then if you talk to anyone who drinks a couple of litres of water every single day, it's not an effort. You'll get into a habit with this stuff really, really quickly and easily. It's not always going to feel like an uphill battle.
Yeah, and we're not saying give up your morning teas and coffees either. It's just about balancing out the stress and recovery. If you're having coffee, that's creating a stress. If you're having the water after the coffee, you'll help flushing the caffeine. That's also help balancing that stress recovery cycle.
Yeah.
But also on the parent thing, if a parent is dehydrated but telling their kids to drink more water, well, the kid's just watching what you're doing.
Yeah. Exactly right.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Exactly right. That's why I'm so proud of all of my clients who, I've got some sessions that people can bring their kids to, but obviously in school holidays people get to bring their kids. But even if they don't actually get to see them working out all the time, they might see mum or dad gets up first thing in the morning and goes to boot camp or goes and does, and it's incredible. You're creating what normal life is. Like, as I said, for me growing up with a psychic mum, that was just normal. Like, that was normal for me. So you really get to this amazing opportunity to model what a normal life is for your kids. And if it's drinking water all the time, if it's getting up and exercising all the time, it's so important to be that role model.
Next point, sleep.
Okay, so here's what I want to say about sleep. And again, this is probably a point that can filter through, that applies across the board. So just because you feel okay doesn't mean that you're behaving in a way that is the healthiest thing for you to do for your body. What I mean by that is, just because you feel okay on 5 hours of sleep every night doesn't mean that that's all you need. It means that you have learned how to function on 5 hours of sleep a night. Imagine how great and how efficient and how super healthy you would be if you were getting 8 hours of sleep every night. Sleep is so important, and I see people sacrificing it these days for a whole big range of things. As I said to you, I'm seeing people do it for exercise. Now, if I know that I've got one night where I go see a band and I'm going to get 6 hours of sleep that night, and the next morning I have the choice to wake up early, go for a run, or to get an extra hour of sleep, then I would kind of go, well, I still want to have my run. It's one night, who cares? But if you're exercising for, 2-3 hours a day, but you're not getting enough sleep, to me, that's not a good trade. If you're getting 6 hours of sleep a night so that you can stay up and be on social media for another hour, that's not a good trade. And sleep it's not just about how you feel. So this stuff isn't just a fluffy, I want to feel better, I want to have more energy, which shouldn't be fluffy. It's pretty significant. But so much happens in our body when we sleep. It's our body's chance to repair itself. It's our body's chance to go into cleanup mode, to clean up all of the crap. It's our body's chance to, a lot of hormone production happens while we sleep, especially testosterone. That's one of the biggest times that our body produces testosterone. So for men, if you're getting 4 hours of sleep a night compared to another man who's getting 8 hours of sleep a night, then that's half the testosterone production. And women are the same. It's a very big hormonal disruptor if we're not getting enough sleep. So again, it's so undervalued, the importance of sleep. And they've shown with studies, I know I said that they can be manipulated, but if you talk to, I know Rich Roll has had some great people on his podcast. Who else has? I don't think it's Joe Rogan. I think Huberman has also spoken to a lot of people about, they're sleep experts, and about your all-cause mortality really starts to change when people are only getting, on a regular basis, 5 hours, 6 hours of sleep per night. So basically, you're shortening your lifespan if you're only getting, 6 hours of sleep every night. It's that simple. That's how important it is.
Yeah, I mean, we're just fancy cavemen, really, and we're designed to. Our hormonal system is driven by our solar lunar rhythms. When the sun goes down, we're programmed to sleep.
Yeah.
And between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., that's when we go through that physical repair cycle. Between 2 a.m. and when we wake up, we go through a psychogenic repair. That's why all the problems of the previous day seem just a little bit easier.
Yeah.
In the morning.
Yeah.
Because our physiology has sorted it out or gotten us closer to that. But if you're one of those people that doesn't feel like they need that much sleep, go without sleep for a day or two. See how you feel. Yeah. You will feel like absolute balls.
Yeah, and as I said, like it's really not a good way to judge things. There's people out there who are functional alcoholics, or even drug addicts. You've got people out there who go, yeah, I do heroin every day, but I'm getting through my work day. Now, or people who are, having half a case of beer every night and getting up and going to work in a law firm. Now, just because they have their body has adapted to be able to function doesn't mean it's healthy all of a sudden. And so just because you've gotten to a point where and I mean, obviously there's people when you've got brand new babies, your body will start to adapt and things like that. There are times in your life where that's just how life is and how it has to happen. But as soon as you have control over it and you can prioritize your life in a different way, making choices that are the healthiest choices, regardless of if you think that it's important or if you're functioning well on something that is, subpar. I think that's, again, it's just that common sense thing needs to come back in. Sleep's super important. That's why we do it without even thinking about it.
And even if you're in your day, if you're tired, most of us push through with a coffee or an energy drink or some kind of caffeinated, sugary, glow-in-the-dark something in the fridge.
Yeah.
But if it's not from nature, you're probably not designed to have it. And if you are tired, and like I'm one of those guys that likes to get up and do a morning workout, that's just part of my rhythm of the day.
Yeah.
But there are some, as you said before, there's sometimes you're not feeling it.
Yep.
And that's the day where I might lift up a weight and it might be 30 kilos, but it feels like 300.
Yeah.
Like, not today.
Yeah.
I might just go for a walk or...
Yeah.
But that's an indication that I need more rest. It doesn't have to be sleep per se, but just I don't need that physical exertion.
Yeah, and you really are only as good as your recovery. So again, do I run for 3 hours a day, get less sleep, or, even stretching comes into that? Like I say to everyone, you're only going to be as good as how well you recover. So yes, we all should be exercising every single day, but you need to recover from that to build back stronger, for your body to be able to build back stronger. And if your recovery, no matter what it is, whether it's if your nutrition is crap, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not properly hydrated, you're not, stretching and doing things like that, then what's the point? Obviously, it's still important to exercise, but they are both as important as each other, for sure.
It's all the 1%ers.
Yeah, it's that real hustle culture, which I am someone who is, I've always been very ambitious. I've always been very, high energy. So I love climbing the next mountain. I totally get it, but not when it becomes almost obsessive. I think that then it becomes unhealthy for different reasons, like mentally what's going on there, that it always has to be, okay, I just ran a marathon, now when's the ultra marathon? I just did the ultra marathon, now when's this? None of this matters if there's not peace, balance and happiness in your life.
We've touched on breathing. Movement.
Yeah, movement. So there's two parts to movement. I think one of them is, really obvious. We know that we all should be exercising every day. That's just a given. But I think outside of that, what is even more important, not more important, just as important, is moving consistently as much as we can throughout the day. So instead of sitting on the lounge after dinner and watching TV, can you go out for a walk? And that is, it's looking like that's a really big predictor for longevity as well, is how much you move, even if it's walking. Like most of the people in the blue zones, they're just walking consistently throughout the day. And I know not everyone's lifestyle, a lot of people work in an office where you're at a desk, but if there is a chance to move, and it doesn't have to be exercise, I think people need to understand how important that is as well. That being on your butt, sitting down for long periods is really not great for our health at all. So exercise needs to be prioritized, and you need to be able to design your life in a way where you're able to get a workout in every day. But see if you can somehow make the rest of your life if you can incorporate movement, if instead of meeting your friends for a coffee, can you get a takeaway, go for a walk with them and have a walk and a chat? If you've got a meeting with someone, can it be a walking meeting? I've started to do things where if I've got to think of content for work stuff, or if I'm, writing up or creating workouts or whatever it is, I'll do it as I'm going for a walk. And I can, write stuff or dictate notes on my phone just so that I'm actually moving a little bit more. So movement to me is two things. It's exercise, important, but also just moving your body all the time.
Yeah, movement activates our pump system. So it stimulates the lymphatic flow of the body.
Yeah.
But I'll just add to that if you ask, like I've got clients that are, working with a lawyer at the moment, working on a very high profile case, and he literally can't leave his, 3x3 cubicle at work because there's a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
So he said, how can I get more movement in? I said, well, are you on, conference calls all day? Can people see you? He said, some can, some can't. Okay, great. When they can't, put your headset on, do some foam rolling.
Yeah.
That's going to get things moving, even if you're not moving, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do your stretches, do some mobilizations, do some Tai Chi, Qigong. Just get stuff moving instead of being stagnant at, the desk all day. Even rolling your head on your shoulders, that's movement.
Some type of movement.
It all counts. It all counts. It all pumps.
I totally agree, and I do really empathise with people who I totally understand that there's a lot of jobs that it is really, you have to be in front of a computer or you're having to sit down, and I do empathise. I think that does make it really hard, but it's about controlling the controllables. Instead of focusing on, but I have to be at my desk for 8 hours a day. Instead of focusing on what you can't control, what can you control outside of that, and just making that as perfect as you can.
Yeah. Okay, the can of worms. Thinking.
Yeah, it is a can of worms, isn't it? Man, we're hard on ourselves.
Ooh, we love it, don't we?
We love it. God, we are our own worst enemies, myself included. Like, as soon as I just want to bring it back to be conscious of your thoughts and be conscious of how you're speaking to yourself. And that is, again, being conscious, that awareness is always number one. But really, don't minimize or don't downplay how important that is to your whole life experience. How tough people are on themselves, but also how much you can get in your own way and talk yourself out of things. So I see people constantly making excuses for themselves and they don't even realize that they're doing it. So if you're talking about exercise, I see people be their biggest barrier to a healthy lifestyle out of anything else in their life, whether it's I'm not fit enough to join something like boot camp, I'm not fit enough to go to that gym, I'm not fit enough to I'll hold everyone back, I'll get left behind, I won't be able to keep up. The stories that we can tell ourselves to keep ourselves in a very safe little position where we don't have to put ourselves out there. It's happening all day, every day. It's happening with people's food choices. It's happening with not asking that girl or guy out, not going for that job. We're constantly creating these stories that we're telling ourselves that are keeping us from our biggest, truest happiness. And so I just have to say, be conscious of it. Be conscious of it.
The funny thing about the stories we tell ourselves, those stories that we tell ourselves actually aren't our stories. They're the stories we've picked up from mum, from dad, from the guy across the road, from whoever.
Yeah.
Whoever we spent time with.
Yeah. And we really, the more you tell those things to yourself, it becomes a belief system. One of the most powerful things that I get people to do, and I do it with myself all the time, is decide who you want to be and act accordingly. And so if you sat there, if you put 5 minutes aside, and if you say, okay, if there was nothing standing in my way, if I could have absolutely anything and create like the most perfect life that I could have, what am I doing on a daily basis? How fit am I? Okay, so how fit am I? Cool. I've got that idea in my head. What are the behaviors that I would have to do to lead me to that level of fitness? How am I eating to have the body that I want or the health that I want? What job do I have? What am I going to have to do to have that job? As soon as you have this really, really strong idea in your head about who you want to be, where you want your life to be, and then you go, okay, what actions do I have to do to create that for myself? And then there's have you ever heard of Layla Hormozi? Of like Alex Hormozi and Layla Hormozi?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So she actually says, and I love this, and I use this with people. I won't swear, but she says the F word. And she says, F your feelings and
Go for it.
fuck your feelings and stick to the plan. And I just love that because people let their feelings get in the way of, I'm not going to feel like exercising every day, but I want to be fit and I want to be healthy and I want to be strong. And I don't want to be the type of person who lets excuses stop me from doing the things that I know that I need to be doing. So once you have that idea of yourself, of who you want to be, you have to identify as that. Then every day you have to try to live in that fuck your feelings and stick to the plan. Because I'm not going to feel like scrubbing my toilet every day, but I want a clean house. And so it can't always be about how you feel. And again, because we have horrible stories that we'll tell ourselves in our head that will stop us from achieving that best life that we could be living. And so conscious of the thoughts, have a very strong sense of who you want to be, where you want to be going in life. And then when it comes to those days where you're feeling a little bit down or unmotivated or just don't feel like it, you have to remember who you want to be. And regardless of how you feel, you need to be able to do the things you need to do to be that.
Yeah, without going on a long, I'm trying not to tangent on the thought thing. I would just give patients a very simple guideline. Well, it sounds simple at least, and that's embody your dream, which is if your dream is losing 20 kilos, just as an example, how does the 20-kilo lighter version of yourself get up in the morning? What's their plan for the day? Are they going to go for the coffee and the muffin, or are they going to get, you know, some water, light snack, do a workout, come back, then have a good breakfast?
Yeah.
What does that person read? What kind of movies do they watch? What kind of information are they inputting into their day? It doesn't have to be terribly complicated,
Yeah.
but their thoughts, to do anything, you have to think to do it.
Yeah.
If I'm to do a squat, or if I'm to get out of this chair, I need to think, get out of the chair.
Yeah.
Unless I'm sleepwalking or having a seizure, it's not going to happen. So I have to think about it for it then to happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of people really don't realize how powerful their thoughts are. And I remember Carolyn Miss said, if you knew how powerful your thoughts were, you wouldn't let yourself leave the house.
Yeah.
Because for everything that's manifested in front of you, you would have first had to be a thought
Yeah.
at some point. So really, it all comes from a thought.
And as
But
soon as you
then
take
whether,
control of that, like
yeah,
you can change your whole, like you can lie in bed in the morning, and I know it sounds fluffy, but give it a go. It works. Like when your alarm goes off in the morning, you can go straight into, oh, I'm so tired. I don't feel like it. Like I don't want to. Should I sleep in? I don't feel like it today. And you can go into that. Like even just saying that, I feel like my energy just dropped like 20 points. Or if you, even if it's a lie at first, if you take control of that and you start saying to yourself, I'm pumped, I'm going to have a great day. I'm like so excited. I get to go and work out, see my friends. I get like, if you take control over that, you could change your whole life experience very quickly. That's why gratitude journals and a gratitude practice works, because if you can shift your awareness, we are hardwired. It's I'm sure it's a survival thing. We really are hardwired towards negativity. I think it's something about 20 times more hardwired towards seeing negative than we are positive. And I'm sure that that is about, survival, and staying away from things that could cause us harm, and keeping us safe and things like that. But we need to be conscious of that. We actually are, some people more than others. But we can take control over that. And even if you say, I've got so much energy, I'm feeling great, you'll be able to run faster and further, and have a very different experience than go, oh, I hate this and I'm tired and I'm this, I'm that. So just take control of it. You can take control over your mind, and that means over your human experience on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I think the people think listening to this now, their automatic thought, their default setting within their psyche would be, I can't control it. The one way you do control it is by just acknowledging it.
Yeah.
Straight away, you've had power over it, because we fear the unknown. And the more we suppress things, feelings, thoughts, etc., it becomes more of an unknown. That creates the fear, because we're scared of the unknown.
Yeah.
But as soon as you acknowledge it, it becomes known. And
Yeah.
that's why Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will continue to run your life, and you'll call it fate.
Yeah, for sure. And I love, like Eckhart Tolle, you are not your thoughts, you're the observer of your thoughts. And as soon as you play with that idea and kind of go, like, just because I think it doesn't mean that it has to be true. And you can sit back off it instead of just like being that thought and embodying it, and believing it. You can go, that's funny that I just thought that. Am I really tired, or could I kind of go, well, no, I feel all right. Like, I'm actually pretty good. So again,
Yeah, debate it.
debate it. Like, is that the truth? Am I really not fit enough to go there and keep up? Like, you don't have to believe it just because you thought it, and it doesn't mean that it's true just because you thought it. And you can, as I said, even if it's a lie at first, put some positivity in there, and just see if you can change your day a little bit, and you very easily can.
So, Loz, you're the founder of Cronulla Bootcamp. What was the idea behind that, and how that came to be?
So when I first became a trainer, I was super lucky. I was still studying, like finishing off my studies, and a friend of mine introduced me to. His name's Lee Campbell, who I worked for a year, and I really look at that like it was a mentorship. So Lee's quite well known in the fitness industry. He was a PTI for the army, and then he had a few shows called Celebrity Overhaul. 20 years ago, he was doing those shows when I was training, when I was working for him, and he had a PT studio in Paddington. So we were training like celebrities, and we were training big groups, like corporate groups, taking people on retreats. It was such a cool introduction into the fitness industry, and not just because the job was great, but he was just such a great mentor. He was a fantastic, still is a fantastic trainer, and I just really got to cut my teeth in a really cool space there. But straight away, he had me doing corporate groups at lunchtime in the Domain in the city, and so I've always trained one-on-one clients, and I've done group work as well. And after I left training with him, I started working for myself straight away. So I got a few clients, just family, friends, and it slowly built up like that. I was working as a singer full time as well. So as soon as I left school, my full time job was, I was a professional singer for a long time. And so I was, half doing that and half doing the training.
That's the fifth episode. Yep.
That's the fifth episode, yeah. And then as things progressed and as I started building that up, I realized that I do love the one-on-one stuff, But I really love the group fitness because I can see how you feed off each other. Everyone feeds off each other's energy, but also I don't think I realized this as much at the time. I would have just thought the social aspect of it was fun, which it is, and it creates a really fun atmosphere to be able to exercise in. But the importance of your relationships now more than ever, I'm really understanding how important that is for our health and for our life. And if we can combine as many of those things as possible, so I mean, I love being outdoors just in general in life. I'd probably live in a tent if I could. So being able to be outside by the water, I understand how important that is for people's health and obviously the exercise for people's health, but just being able to be around other people and joke and, have that interaction with people as well, like that camaraderie that you have like in sporting teams and stuff. So the more I was doing the PT, the more I realized, no, I really love the group stuff. That's what I want to do. And wasn't big social media days. I actually started off with a letterbox drop is how I got Cronulla Bootcamp started. And at first it was only 3 days a week, and then it's built from there over time. And I just love it. I love for me, group training. I think that's why it has gained in popularity. I think people are understanding how that social connection is a really important part, and it just keeps you motivated. There's not many people who are happy being the one whinger in the group. If you're doing a one-on-one session, that people very easily can just, oh, they don't feel like it today. But if you've got everyone else working hard, it usually lifts you up as well. So yeah, that's how I started it. I started it very consciously, and it's built into a beautiful community.
Yeah, awesome. I see them. I see them around.
Yeah, hopefully being good. Yeah,
Obviously, yeah.
they are. They're such a
I
good bunch of people. I just, yeah. Even when new people join all the time, I'm like, I feel like I've hit the client lottery. I'm very lucky to be
mm.
surrounded by very good people.
Well, Oz, feel free to share any final comments, resources, contact information, or other services you offer.
Final comments. As I just touched on, then I think don't get stressed about any of this stuff. Don't make nutrition or exercise or whatever it is that we've talked about today. Don't let it be stressful, and don't overcomplicate things. Don't get lost. Don't get lost in the stacks of information that we have, that we get bombarded with on a daily basis. Just keep it simple. It's the simple stuff that we do consistently on a daily basis that's going to be more important than once a year doing a week-long fast and then going back into bad habits. And none of this stuff will mean anything if you're not happy. So find the things in life that make you happy. Find the people that make you feel happy in life. And, happiness is very, very important. And so don't get stressed out about having to smash yourself with all of these different things if it's not something that's making you happy.
Those words. So, Lauren, how can people find you?
So for all things fitness, you can find me at Cronulla Bootcamp. So the website, all of my social media, Facebook and Instagram. And for breathwork, I am the Breathwork Society. So you can find me on socials there as well. And I just want to say as well, if anyone ever wants to talk about anything to do with this stuff, when I say that I nerd out on this stuff, it's very true, very genuine. So if anyone ever wants to talk about any of these things, how this stuff could help your life, how it could impact your life, or to just get more information, just get in touch. And if it's not with me, if it's someone else that you've been following for a while, anyone who is genuinely in a health space that is actually like really caring about helping other people. I know that I can say this, and I'm sure that you can as well. We really do come from a place where it really matters to us to be able to try and help people be the healthiest version of themselves. And so just reach out. If you feel like there's a change that you should be making in your life, don't sit back. Don't wait for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. just make that first little step in the right direction, which could be just reaching out to someone like yourself or like me to just kind of go, hey, what's the first thing that I can do? Or to just touch base, have a chat, and to just see if you can put yourself with people who are going to be able to help motivate you to be that healthiest version of yourself.
It doesn't take much, and there is no perfect moment, but every moment is perfect, which is its own paradox. And it might not feel perfect, but it could be the catalyst that you need to get the ball rolling in a certain direction. And I know there's a lot of people out there, but if you resonate with that, certainly reach out to Loz, and she will certainly help you out with her genius.
I will try my very best.
Well, thank you for listening. We're way out of time, but that's okay because we're having fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've absolutely loved chatting, and for our next 5, 6, 7 tangents that we'll go on for a podcast, I'm excited for those. But I really appreciate the chat, and I'm so grateful that you've had me on.
You're more than welcome. I'll get started on the questions right away.
Yeah, we've probably got them already in here. We probably don't even need to find them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're in the ether. I'll just allow them through.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you so much,
Easy.
Matt.
Thanks, Loz. See you next time.
You've been listening to the Body's Compass podcast with Matt Sorensen and today's guest, Lauren Rountree. If you liked this week's episode, please consider giving us a 5-star rating and a warm review. Please share this episode with someone you think it might help. If you want to find out more, give us a follow on Instagram at the Body's Compass, or swing by healhub.net. Thanks for tuning in. Catch you next time.